Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week. I'm co-host Mike, and this is, I believe, episode number 34. I'm here with my friend Steve, and I'm sure you've heard me say this before if you're not new, but if you're joining us for the first time, we're two dudes that are just kind of getting back into the old comic business. Getting into the comics hijinks of picking up our list, our pull list of comics, and then reporting back to you with our thoughts. And yes, Steve, I know you're going to start us off, but if you want to say anything else, would love to hear how you've been, what you're thinking about for this week.
Yeah, had a pretty good week, I'd say. Not too bad. I think we said this recently, but I feel like we're kind of finding kind of what we like and creators that we like, and kind of finding our groove a little bit. But yeah, it's welcome to anyone who's a first time listener. I appreciate you stopping by. And so the first book on my list this week is Marvel always gets me because they have aliens now. So, Disney owns Aliens, and I saw that there was a What If Aliens book, and I thought, meh. And then I saw that Paul Reiser co-wrote it, and I thought, okay, all right, you got me. So, What If Aliens #1 is a what if story on if Burke from Aliens had survived. And I'm a sucker for anything aliens, unfortunately for me. And big fan of the movie Aliens. So this was intriguing for me. And I thought they did a decent job on tying it into the movie. Like it kind of made sense in a way, but it didn't take long before Burke did a lot of un-Burke things. It just didn't seem like the character would do the things that he did. I don't know. I just felt off. It just didn't feel like things that he would do after the other things he had done, and how committed he was without getting into too many details. But, sometimes questions are better left unanswered. So what if Burke had died? Sometimes it's better just to talk about it and just to, sometimes you don't have to know. There's certain things you just don't have to have wrapped up. And, yeah, I had high hopes for this one, but unfortunately I'm throwing in the towel after one issue. There was a time jump in there, and it just didn't keep my attention, didn't keep my interest. And I'm just not interested to see what happens to this character. I think some things are better left alone. We don't have to know. And that's kind of where I am with this one. It was a nice swing. I think Paul Reiser co-writing it is kind of neat, but not for me. So unfortunately, I'm out. One was enough for me.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. One and done, I guess.
Yeah.
I recently watched that film, Aliens, and boy, I think it's really great. I thought that not to get off on a tangent here, but I was so impressed with the special effects in that film. I think they hold up extremely well.
Yeah, and something that we talked about this week on Film Chewing, we had discussed Vanilla Sky, the film from 2001, and we talked about special effects getting worse because I think there's so much dependency on special effects and computer generated special effects, and I just think there's just too much of it that it just doesn't seem real anymore. You look at Jurassic Park. A lot of practical effects, and there's a mix of practical and computer generated effects, and it's just so much more effective when you just don't rely so heavily on special effects. So, yeah, but I agree.
Yeah. Well, and I don't have the super high, exciting news here. My not to bury the lead, but my book is Spider-Punk. I believe the subtitle is Arms Race, and this is, of course, by Marvel. believe it's a number 1 issue, and the writer is Cody Ziegler, who I had heard of him before. I think on some other podcasts. He's a comedian, so I saw his name and I was interested, and I thought, well, what could this be? On the cover, you've got some version of Spider-Man holding a guitar, and he has spikes coming out of his head, so he's got certainly a punk looking vibe. So I don't know what possessed me to pick this one up otherwise, because I could really see this hitting the right audience, though, and I have to preface this that I'm just not the right audience for this. So we have an alternate version of Spider-Man here, way into the future, and Spider-Man, it goes by another name of Hobie, and he's teamed up with a band of other kind of Marvel Avenger, bandmates, and they're also fighting crime. And so, for example, there's an Iron Man, but he goes by Riot Heart. So they all have kind of different names. I found the story a little bit hard to follow. I think that they're dealing with a backlash of, for whatever reason, Spider-Punk, try to stop Oscorp, or the version of Osborn in the future, and they're dealing with that kind of aftermath. And the Wakanda crew, some versions of them, they're future versions. So, for example, T'Challa, I think, is like a ghost kind of or hologram image. They show up and provide humanitarian aid, which I thought actually was kind of interesting. There's just a lot going on here. It's extremely colorful and vibrant, and I would say even some of the imagery is manga inspired. So I could really see this, hitting for the younger audiences. And it's the crew of characters are skewing, of course, much younger. They look like teens. I'll say there's a few baddies in here, and so we do get a Dr. Octopus appearance, which actually is kind of interesting. I used to be a big Spider-Man fan when I was younger, so I'm always intrigued. But it was a little bit of a struggle for me, and so I think I'm pretty much one and done as well. But like I said, I could see this, if you have a teenage son or daughter, I could see this really appealing to them potentially.
Yeah, I mean, with the title like Spider-Punk, why not, right? Give it a shot.
I was like, I'll give it a shot. I'm trying to give. I think we know what we like, but I'm also trying to throw a few curveballs in there too.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. I mean, every once in a while you get that title that it just doesn't. Like, well, I'll just give it a shot, and it works out. So it's worth taking a swing once in a while. So the next one for me is Antarctica number 9. This one's been a slow burn. It's been a little up and down for me. The last few issues had kind of started to pull the story together. It was starting to make a little bit more sense, starting to get background on characters, kind of flesh out the world. And there's a point in the story where you have to stop asking questions and start answering questions. We've gotten to that point a little bit, but we keep adding on more questions at the same time. So it's still holding me. And this is like I said, it's a slow burn. This issue is pretty solid. There's a few hints of what might be going on. There's a lot going on, but like I said, we're starting to see why the characters are where they are, why they've done what they've done. Things are making more sense in that respect. The art continues to be great, and I just love the lettering. I think letterers don't get enough credit for the work they do, but I just love the lettering. It's just a little different. It stands out. It's very stylistic, and yeah. So this it wasn't the best issue ever, but I feel like it's still holding my attention, and yeah, I'm along for the ride. See how long it lasts. I still think this series will there's so many different elements in it. There's like all the science fiction and time travel and alternate dimensions and universes and different Earths. And I mean, it's off the rails, but I kind of dig it. So I'm on board with it.
Yeah. Wow. That is something that I've noticed, since getting back in the swing of things here with comics, is the lettering, to me, used to just be the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I'm noticing experimentation with different colors, and sometimes the balloons are different colors as well, depending on if it's like some sinister character. It might be black, white lettering on black, so I've definitely noticed that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like there's, I think the Batman book recently, I forget which one it was, did different colors of text bubbles and different, so you can really, when you have those little things, just add a lot to the experience when it's done right.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll be talking about Dynamite's Jennifer Blood Battle Diary number 4, and I believe Steve also may have also read this one, so we both had a chance to, we'll both be able to comment on it. And one thing I have to mention quickly is, I guess Dynamite does this with, maybe they do this with everything, but they do have a much higher quality, like cardstock cover. And I like that. I dig that, because it just feels a little bit more solid in a way. I'm not that I dislike the other kind of style, but it just seems a little bit more like you're getting your money's worth. I don't want to complain too much about that. But I'm still enjoying this series. My biggest question, I don't know if you had the same question, is, are we going to get more insight into Jennifer Blood, the character, the backstory, any more substance? And I guess the answer is yes, somewhat. At least for me, I got a little bit more about kind of her upbringing, the younger version of her, and her mother namesake, I guess. And I will just, without getting into a lot of the details of the story, I will say it's quite a nice change of pace, where I think, if I'm not mistaken, the last issue or the one of the last 2 issues was very action packed, and it was like a big race. And this one was a bit slower. And I would even say, we got more of the kind of secondary characters. Jennifer Blood herself doesn't have that much page time here. So I would say overall it's a nice interlude from the previous issues, and I'm looking forward to continuing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was nice to learn a little bit more background, and I'm not sure if this was covered in the other series, but you do feel like things are coming to a head. Things are starting to converge, and this one felt like some build up. And there's some dark humor that worked. You kind of feel like this book knows what it's doing. It knows what it is, and it just leans into it. And I can appreciate that. But yeah, I think next issue should be pretty action packed.
Yeah.
So the next one for me is King Spawn 31 by Image Comics, and I'm getting back into the Spawn books after the events of Spawn 350. I kept hearing this was a good time to jump in if these are books you've been wanting to get into. First, I love the artwork. The artwork takes me back to it kind of gives me the 90s nostalgia. But after the events of Spawn 350, some of the characters from this universe to have no powers. And they've lost their powers, are mortal again. And I do wonder why they keep wearing the costumes they wear. It just seems like if they're trying to blend in and they have no powers, and why not just throw on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt or something? But, but that's what it is. But Yeah, I think I really love the artwork. I'm intrigued by what's going on. I really want to get into Spawn. I really want to get back into it without reading the 400 or so issues of King Spawn and Spawn that I missed out on. So, yeah, I think it's a good time to jump in if you are curious about this series. I didn't feel too lost. I felt like I kind of can piece together what's going on. So, yeah, it was fine. I think it was okay. I really want to kind of get my footing in this series, and maybe one day reread the Spawn series, all 350 issues of it. But yeah, I thought the art alone was worth the price of admission for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Dumb question number 32 is, for me, is King Spawn a totally different character? Is he like a symbiotic version of Spawn?
I'm not too sure. I think it's still Al Simmons. I think it's just a different storyline. I'm not sure if it ties into the main title. It's connected because of these events in Spawn are affecting this version of him too. I'm not sure if it's a different version or if it's. I'm not sure because he does look different. His face isn't as disfigured, but that may have been a change.
Okay.
Somewhere along the way that I missed, but they're connected somehow. I'm just not sure how just yet. The woes of new comic book readers. So the next one for me was Kneel Before Zod number 4. This is of course by DC Comics. So the Kryptonians are on the defense and into a battle. There's a tactic used in this issue that worked against Zod and his army that didn't really make sense to me. And I have questions about how this works, if this tactic worked. I'm trying not to spoil it, but it was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. But yeah, I don't want to say too much, but there's the tactic used was a little curious. I am enjoying this series more and more as we go. I love the idea of Zod like an evil Superman, and I love the dynamic that they're working with on teasing him not being really the kind of the main villain in the series. And there is a surprise at the end. I'm not sure if it's a red herring or not, but either way, I think this is a pretty battle heavy issue, and but it was fun. I had fun with it. I think this series has my attention. I just love the idea of Zod and his army, and yeah, I'll continue reading this one.
Yeah, we were saying before we hit record. I also picked this one up, but I didn't get a chance to read it. So I hope to. I'm curious to hear what happens at the end here, and we'll probably comment on it the next time. And I'm going to be talking about a series that I think we both have been reading, and this is what it says on the cover. It is Maria Lovett's Crave. So she's the writer and artist, and I kind of like that. Kind of like John Carpenter has his name above the title. And I think I don't know, there's something about this series that just has something very unique about it. And I think we've already talked about how it's commentary on technology and especially, younger people and how they're being clearly manipulated by technology here. It's, of course, is a little bit over the top, but we do get more insight into the Crave app this time. So I hope we'll not say much more than that, and a little bit more kind of focus on just a few characters and some interesting introductions to at least one new character that I'm very intrigued by. And I guess I can say she's like a tarot card reader. I won't say much more than that. And so, yeah, this is very close to my pick of the week. I just want to comment quickly on the artwork. So there's a color palette that's very I think, carefully chosen here that I didn't notice. And it's very clearly picking, selecting reds and purple and pink and, kind of, I guess, kind of warm tones with a little bit of cool tones in there. So it's just very, in that sense, it's very well balanced. And then, yet the background doesn't have as much going on. So you can really kind of focus in on what's happening with the characters. Like I can see their expressions. And, Maria Lovett uses some shading or to show that characters get kind of flushed or flummoxed, which happens quite a lot. Anyways, I just wanted to comment quickly on that. And again, this is of course, for mature readers, a little bit of sexy times in this one, and but it's a good series.
Yeah, not a book to read on public transport or around other people, definitely.
Yeah, or an airplane, or
yeah. I'm definitely bummed that I missed this one this week, but I'm really curious now what we discovered about the app. So, really good stuff. Yeah, I hope things work out. I hope this series, I was hoping that we would start to learn more about the app and kind of the larger picture. It sounds like maybe we're going that direction. So fingers crossed. So the next one for me is Night People. I didn't know anything about this one. It was a good first issue. I really like the artwork and the style matched it. It's kind of reminded me a lot of Natural Born Killers. There's these two women who have gotten out of prison or escaped. We don't know yet, but they are they're tearing through and they're killing men and spreading their lunacy and their thoughts on theology and their own little kind of who should be ruling the world and who should pay and kind of just insane. But I think there's some social commentary here, but it's not too heavy-handed. And if you've listened before, I can appreciate that. So there is some commentary there, but it wasn't too much to where it took away from the story. So far it's pretty good. I'm not really sure what the point of it is, other than just like some killers, running through the country. And there is some pretty dark humor in this one as well. That kind of just when things go bad, they go bad for our victims. So yeah, I'll continue this one. I'll see where it goes and kind of what the bigger ideas are with this one. But so far it was entertaining. If you're into crime, like Natural Born Killers kind of thing, you may enjoy this one. But yeah, I think it was okay. And I'm curious to see what happens next.
So this is not so much kind of supernatural or horror per se. Okay.
There's a pinch of horror, but it's more of the horrors that people commit against each other so far. Yeah.
It's a interesting segue for our pick of the week. Both of us, I think, had the same pick, definitely, which is exciting. I don't know how many times we've had that, maybe once or twice. And this is Underheist number 2 by the Lapham's. Boy, I'm just really impressed with this one. And I will say very quickly, I don't think I mentioned it on the podcast before, but after I read the first Underheist, I did go back and read the first volume of Stray Bullets. And I was like, wow, I was really blown away. It's probably not for everybody, but it was something else. There's a unique voice here. And I think I will probably continue with that series. But just to bring us back to Underheist, I feel like we read this maybe 2 months ago, but it feels like there's been a while. So I don't entirely remember what happened in issue 1, but I believe we picked up after some kind of a big heist, and the main character, David, I think got injured. And so we learn a lot more about the couple, David. Actually, they're exes. David and Lil, I believe her name is. After the robbery, the crime went wrong, and I found that to be really interesting. Just the complexities of past relationships, and also kind of peeking into a little bit more about David, and he's kind of had something very special happen to him. So definitely we are getting supernatural elements here, I believe, which was maybe just hinted at in issue 1. And I just have to say, the artwork again is really just very well balanced. It's gorgeous. I just appreciate it. I think you had mentioned this, Steve. They're not doing anything too fancy with kind of the panels, and you don't need to, because the story just is very well balanced. It's well paced. I just felt very comfortable reading it compared to some of I don't want to say which ones, but I was like I read something else just before this, and this was just like, I just felt like, I don't know. It was just like a masterpiece. So just, the story is coming drip, drip, drip. And I talked a lot about this already, so I'd love to hear what your thoughts were, Steve.
It's really interesting you said that, because of my notes. I have that, I felt like I was a bit biased because I'm such a big fan of Latham. But I love the straightforward art style. I think the art style really lets you focus on the characters, and it doesn't. And I don't mind creative art styles. I don't mind when creators do something differently, or they take chances or do something, out of the box. I really appreciate that. Like, I really enjoy those kind of stories, like a Tenement or Gideon Falls. The Bone Orchard Mythos series. Like, that's a perfect example of really a way to be really creative, and it really worked for the story. Mm-hmm. But in this one, I kind of felt like this style, this art style, the layouts, the panels, there's something to be said about it just feels comfortable. It just feels like you can focus on the story, and maybe it's a thing where we're conditioned to, that's kind of what we, read when we were younger, but it just felt like easy. It felt like easy to read. It felt like your attention is more on the characters and the flow of the story, and not so much on all the other things happening. And again, I appreciate when they take chances and do something more creative, but there's something soothing about just the classic layout. Mm-hmm. And there's something about, maybe it's just the story flows a little easier because it's something we're used to, but yeah, I agree. I think the only thing I'm afraid of is if it takes like a Stranger Things kind of upside down path, but it really amps up the weirdness as we go. And I really like that. Like there's some really strange things that are going on, and I'm just loving this series so far. Mm-hmm.
One quick comment you made me think. So when I was reading this, I felt like there's not too much dialogue, there's not too much words, but also I felt like I needed to kind of go back and forth between the panels to kind of piece together what was happening, because there's a lot of interesting things going on which may or may not be happening in, I think, David's head. And so I was like, there's a lot of that kind of it's kind of having this kind of impact on your thought patterns, like what's really happening here, and yet it's not too much. So I don't know if that is, that's the kind of the style here, but if there's not too much in terms of like dialogue and text, you do focus, like you said, on what's happening, and yet that's not so complex either. So it's the story, it's the different elements that are coming together, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I just love David Lamphams' work. I think he's. I'm a big fan of his work, and just when it's the pair together, the Lamphams together. There's something magical about it. It really works, and I'm so glad they're doing this series.
Me too, definitely. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that one was. I mean, it was like, I wouldn't say far and away, but it was pretty clearly the pick for me. So, but an otherwise really solid week of books. But yeah, it does feel like a long time since issue 1. It feels like over a month, but maybe I've just been waiting for it. So
that could be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good stuff. So that's all. I think that's all of them from us this week. Seems like it went pretty fast.
Yeah. I think maybe if it, I don't know what it is. If sometimes it's, we just get a little bit clearer on what we liked or didn't like. Maybe we're also improving as we're going along here.
Yeah, every time we get a little bit. Hopefully, it's getting a little bit better. I would like to think so, but yeah, it's been fun. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good time. But yeah, I think overall pretty good week. I think you are throwing in the towel on Spider-Punk Arms Race. But other than that, I think and I'm throwing in the towel on What If Aliens. But pretty solid week overall. Pretty good stuff. So thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully you had a great reading week. And if you do want to tell us about what you're reading or recommend things to us or talk comics with us or books or movies or the 1,000 other things we talk about, join our forums at pagechewing.com. Say hello. We have a great community there. And if you want to directly communicate with us, send us a DM and say hello and tell us about how we're getting worse every episode and not getting better. We'd love to hear your feedback. But I'm joking, of course, but not really. So anyway, just let us know how you're doing, and we'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk comics with you or anything else. So until next week, we'll talk to everyone very soon.